It seems the disrespect for the original Witcher author and his work doesn't end in the writer's room at Netflix. In fact, the company may have done something much worse. How Netflix stole millions from the creator of The Witcher.
She gave us a message to pass on to you.
It's an ultimatum.
Andrzej Sapkowski, the original author of the Witcher novel series, and CD Projekt Red, the developer of the Witcher video game series, have recently come under a new agreement.
How did you feel before walking onto the set the first time to see what has come to life?
I've never been on the set of no movie at all, so for me everything is a big surprise, a big event, to be part of it practically, to see it with my own eyes.
This new licensing agreement came after Andrzej asked to be paid around $16 million in royalties but was denied. The entire debate goes all the way back to an interview that he did back in 2017. In the interview, he revealed the original conversation that he had with CD Projekt Red. Back when the company approached him to make The Witcher in 2008, he didn't have much faith in the video game industry. Andrzej stated that he was stupid enough to sell the company the rights to his novels. At the time, they offered him a percentage of their profits. But because Sapkowski was being quite short-sighted, he refused to take the percentage. He believed that there would be no profits at all, and instead he asked to be given all his money immediately.
Andrzej Sapkowski initially sold the license to the Witcher IP to CD Projekt Red back before they started developing The Witcher 1, and he was skeptical that it would make them any money at all.
And he wanted to be given the whole amount, no percentages. Looking back at it, he calls it a very stupid decision. He was stupid enough to leave everything in their hands and didn't consider the level of success that video games could achieve. Now, Netflix has begun using the franchise, making it into a successful show with spin-offs on the way. And despite that, Andrzej is left to beg for his $16 million in royalties. Sapkowski feels like his work is being undervalued, and he had second thoughts about his initial deal quite early. Why Andrzej tried negotiating his deal. Sapkowski began to have second thoughts about his deal with CD Projekt Red. He wrote a bold letter to the company, which was made public in October 2018. In this, he stated that under Polish law, he'd been wrongfully underpaid for his work. The original author stated that his compensation for The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt would be something like $16 million in royalties. Replying back to these claims, the video game company said that the demands were groundless.
A new private agreement was made in 2019 between the developer and author that seemed to satisfy both parties.
They continued that CD Projekt Red acquired the rights for The Witcher on fair and legal grounds, and that at the time Mr. Andrzej had agreed to the terms. Plus, the company clarified that any liabilities that are payable by the company have been done so already. Still, they left the door open for any further negotiations and discussions, considering they did use the author's original work to create 3 highly successful games. And now it seems that even Netflix has been using the original franchise. So it seems only fair that Sapkowski is given a little bit of that cheddar. The amount of money that Netflix must have printed because of the Witcher franchise is unprecedented. Not only do they have a main series, but they recently released a spin-off too.
Always choose order, no matter the cost.
Plus, there are others in the works. None of these would be possible without Sapkowski's original novel series. And so, many fans believe that Netflix should pay him his due amount. But this isn't the first time Netflix has showcased a disregard for the author.
There's nothing more frustrating in this life than seeing one of your favourite Netflix shows get unceremoniously canned. And unfortunately, we are in an era where the once protective streamer is now like the biggest serial killer of TV shows in the entire world.
Netflix has generally showcased that they don't care much about the author and his original work when working on The Witcher. In fact, this was one of the major reasons why Henry Cavill left. As a fan of the original games and novel series, he wanted the TV show to remain loyal to the works it was based on.
Then I learned that there were books, and that was written by a guy called Andrzej Sapkowski. And the books are absolutely fantastic. Really, really good, dark fantasy, typical fantasy tropes, gnomes, elves, dwarves, all of that kind of stuff. And but it's set in this really grim world where there aren't any good people or bad people. There's just everyone trying to get along.
But the team behind the show had different plans. According to a writer who worked on the show but quit, the writer's room didn't have much respect for the work they were adapting. In fact, some of the writers would even openly mock Sapkowski's novels. Because of this, they tried to make their own changes that weren't present in the original storyline. This was probably evident to fans of the games and novel series based on the fact that Season 2 was a disaster. You'd imagine that the basic requirement that Netflix would put in place for people adapting an existing IP would be that they'd be fans of it. At the very least, the writers working on any series should have a certain amount of respect for it. And the way that the writer's room for The Witcher is described, it seems that they outright hated the original novels. Instead, they wanted to turn them into a generic fantasy series. And that's painfully obvious from the new Netflix-produced Witcher prequel series too. It's clear that someone over at Netflix has a very drastic misunderstanding of just what The Witcher is. And that may be why Cavill left too.
For the way the show was being made, he's spoken about his love for the fantasy world before, and about how he'd love the show to be more faithful to the world that Sapkowski created. Now that we know he's leaving The Witcher, we can tell he was dissatisfied with the people running the show.
But it seems like Netflix's fortune may change soon. How The Witcher may flop moving forward. Looks like Netflix wasn't grateful for the amazing series they had on their hands, and now it's going to turn into a flop very soon. There's no denying that the second season of the show wasn't nearly as positively received as the first one. And this was mostly because the writing for the show had dwindled quite a bit, but fans still continue to watch it because Henry was the star. Now that Henry's no longer going to be involved from season 3 onwards, it doesn't seem like the show has much of a future. What makes it even worse is the fact that Henry didn't really exit the show on the best of terms. There's some very obvious bad blood there, which is why he left in the first place. This only goes to show that people aren't going to be kind to The Witcher when the third season drops. It's possible that the third season's terrible writing will be obvious to everyone from the get-go, and the real reason why Cavill left will finally come out. When this happens, it's hard to imagine anyone will stick around for a Cavill-less Witcher Season 4. While Liam might be a talented actor, it's going to be hard for anyone to consider him as a serious Geralt after having seen Cavill. That being said, Netflix definitely didn't treat Andrei properly. But the original Witcher author isn't blameless either. Sapkowski clearly had no faith in CD Projekt Red and their games, which is why he asked to be paid immediately. He agreed to terrible terms in the first place, despite the fact that the company was offering him something better. But due to his lack of faith in gaming in general, he took the route with the faster cash, and in the end, he regretted it. Just because he wasn't happy with the terms of his deal after seeing how much he could have earned, doesn't mean that CD Projekt Red is to blame. Though Netflix definitely made a huge sum of money by using Sapkowski's work.
As a reader, I consider it a great privilege to have readers interested to such extent. I've been here and I see the great interest that the people interested in books. That's invigorating. And
so they can certainly afford to pay him more. By showing fans that they actually care about the original author, Netflix may be able to push hardcore fans back on their side. Right now, they need to do anything they can to get fans of the original work to support them. And if they can't do it by getting Henry back, then paying Sapkowski a proper amount may be the next best thing. It's clear that they can definitely afford it, considering just how massive this franchise has been for them. So it should be a good idea to pay royalties to the author. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the fact that Netflix stole millions from the original creator of The Witcher? See you in the next video.